Welcome again to my course, Working in Child Protection Field.
In the previous videos, we presented an introduction to child protection. Then we explained the legal framework. Then we explained the abbreviations of the child protection field. Today, we will get into the heart of the child protection domain. We are going to explain child protection basics. In fact, this topic is essential to understand all the details and topics of child protection domain. In this topic, we are going to learn some important definitions, the categories of children we target in this field, the reasons behind targeting these categories of children, also the basic principles for working in this field, as well as child protection concerns. So let's start with the definitions that you need to memorize. First, what is the definition of a child? A child can be defined as any person under 18 years of age. This is the legal definition according to the United Nations Child Rights Convention, while the socio-cultural definition may differ from one place to another. In some cultures, a child becomes an adult once he or she reaches 15 years of age, and in some others, a child needs to reach 20 years of age to be considered as an adult. The point here is, we child protection workers should adhere to the legal definition, no matter where you work or where you serve. Moving to the second essential definition, which is child protection. What do we mean by child protection? In our domain, child protection means prevention and response to violence, exploitation, and abuse against children, including sexual exploitation, trafficking, child labor, harmful traditional practices such as female genital mutilation, child marriage, and all acts that negatively affect the physical, mental, and emotional health of the child. So, anyone asks, what is child protection? You should say, it is prevention and response, and etc. Besides these definitions, we have two more important definitions, which are crisis and disaster. What are the definitions and what are the differences between them? A crisis means a single event or a series of events that threaten the health, the safety, and the well-being of a community or large group of people, and also threaten the main components on which the system is based. While disaster means a situation that occurred and led to destruction and massive losses in human and material resources. The causes are either natural or human-made, and usually not preceded by a warning, and requires taking extraordinary measures to return to the stable situation. Here you may ask, what is the relation between these two definitions and the field of child protection, which is a good question. In fact, in crises and disasters, child protection concerns and challenges significantly increase, and children become prone to all sorts of violence, abuse, exploitation, and neglect, and may suffer from physical, psychological, and emotional problems, and also may live in bad life conditions. Anyway, a disaster may lead to crisis, and vice versa. A crisis may lead to disasters if appropriate decisions and measures are not taken to confront it. Moving to another important question, which is, what are the children categories that child protection field targets? And the answer is, child protection domain takes care of all children, but it focuses on the following categories. Children affected by crises and disasters, cases of physical, sexual, emotional, and psychological violence, cases of abuse, exploitation, trafficking, recruitment, and neglect, separated and unaccompanied children, children who have legal issues or problems with law, children recruited into armed forces or groups, orphan children, children with special needs, child marriage cases, psychological and social disorders. These are the main groups and categories of children we focus on and target, and you may deal with some other types of cases in some specific communities or places. These points lead to another important question, which is, why do children need this special care or support from adults, from governments, and from child protection actors? This is because children are physically weak compared to adults, which makes them vulnerable to being abused, exploited, recruited, neglected, and etc. Also, they are physically and emotionally in a state of development, which means they haven't yet reached the stage of sufficient maturity that enables them to know what is right and what is wrong, what is safe and what is unsafe, or to be independent or defend or take care of themselves. Also, they are less aware of danger and less able to adapt with some experiences that are normal and simple for adults. They are dependent on adults to meet their needs. They cannot secure their needs without adults. For example, a child cannot secure food, shelter, education, or legal documents without adults. Also, children are weak or unable to express or disclose some certain experiences or needs, especially when they face violence, abuse, or exploitation, or when they feel pain or sick. Also, it is difficult for children to access services without adults. For example, a child cannot take a car and go to far places to get vaccines or legal documents or medication and etc. Due to all these points, it was necessary for entities such as the United Nations agencies, governments, national and international organizations, child protection actors to intervene to support and help children worldwide, especially in crises, disasters, emergencies, also helping weak government systems, also weak awareness societies, to ensure that children are safe, protected, and live normal life. Now let's move forward and see what types of protection concerns and challenges children usually face. Worldwide, children face different protection concerns, even in stable countries, but these concerns increase in crises, disasters, and emergencies. And these concerns can be separation from the family, various types of exploitation, child trafficking, child labor, recruitment, sexual exploitation or abuse, child marriage, physical violence, psychological violence and ordeals, neglect, lack of basic protection, and etc. These are the common types of protection concerns. And the question here is, who causes these concerns for children? Or who can protect children from these concerns? In this regard, we have something called protection factors. Also, we have risk factors. It is important for child protection workers to understand these factors. The protection factors include, first, the child, which means the child can play a crucial role to protect himself or herself, especially when the child has good knowledge and awareness and has skills such as problem-solving skills, communication skills, and etc. The second protection factor is the family, which means parents, brothers, and sisters can protect their child when they do their duties properly. The third factor is community, and the fourth is society, which means the neighbors, friends, teachers, community leaders, police, doctors, and other government staffs all can protect children in their communities and societies. Now let's see the risk factors. The first factor is the child, which means the child can be a risk for himself or herself if he or she thinks or behaves in negative ways. Also, when he or she doesn't have enough knowledge or awareness or skills. The second risk factor is the family. The third factor is community. The fourth is the society. The point here is that the protection and risk factors for a child are the same. The child, the family, the community, and the society can be protective factors and also can be risky factors. To better understand this part, you can go to the topic of child protection factors. We dedicated in this course a separate video for this important topic. Regarding the child protection concerns that we mentioned many times in this video, it is important to understand and differentiate between each one of them. So let's explain each one briefly. First, violence, which means all acts that involve the intentional use of power or force against a child, whether verbally or physically, that result in either harm or high likelihood of harm to the child's safety, well-being, dignity, and development, as you can see in this photo. Second, abuse, which means an intentional act that has actual or potential negative effects on the child's safety, well-being, dignity, and development. This act is committed in the context of relationship or responsibility, trust, or authority. Anyway, there are three types of abuse and violence. Here they are. Third, exploitation. When an individual in a position of authority or trust takes or attempts to exploit a child for his or her personal benefits or satisfaction. This personal benefit may take different forms, such as physical, sexual, financial, social, military, or political. The following photos show different types of exploitation. The first photo is physical exploitation. The second is using children to obtain money. The third is exploiting children for military purposes. The fourth photo is exploiting a child through technology. Moving to the fourth type, which is neglect, which means intentional or unintentional failure to protect a child from actual or potential harm to his or her safety, well-being, dignity, and development, or failure to fulfill the rights of the child. 5. Orphans. In child protection, orphan means missing both parents, not one of them as considered in some cultures, since one parent can secure and provide the child with the basic needs. 6. Separated children, which means those who are separated from their parents. 7. Unaccompanied children, which means those who are separated from parents and all relatives. Cases of separation and unaccompanied children increase in crises, disasters, emergencies, and during displacement. 8. Child labor, which means any work that is mentally, physically, socially, or morally dangerous and harmful to children, and that interferes with their education by depriving them of the opportunity to go to school. 9. Children with special needs. Special needs doesn't mean only children who have physical needs, but also those who have emotional, behavioral, cognitive, or learning disabilities. 10. Children affected by armed conflicts, such as recruited children, injured children, children suffered from the consequences of armed conflicts, and so on. 11. Children affected by disasters, such as floods, earthquakes, diseases, famine, wars, and so on. 12. Psychological and social disorders, such as depression, stress, panic, self-harm, isolation, aggressiveness, and etc. You may deal with some other different types of protection concerns in some specific places or contexts. Now moving to the last part of this topic. After we learned the child protection concerns, the categories of children we focus on, and the protection and risk factors, now we need to know how we should work and provide support to these groups of children. And the answer is, you should adhere to the minimum general standards of child protection, which include do no harm, which means don't cause further harm to children, to people, or to communities. Also, don't discriminate children or people during your work. All your efforts, services, and programs should strengthen and build child resilience. All your efforts, services, and programs should strengthen the child protection systems, especially in the areas you work in. Also, you should protect people from physical violence and coercion during your activities, services, or programs. Added to these minimum standards, all your efforts, activities, services, and programs should be compatible and supportive to United Nations Child Rights Convention, which stress on the best interest of the child, to be non-discriminative, and to consider participation of children, families, communities, and government in all of our activities and programs. Before the end of this video, I want to tell you that this topic, child protection basics, is very important topic. You will find it at the beginning of all child protection programs, such as psychosocial support programs, case management program, child resilience programs, and etc. Thus, if you missed any part or didn't understand something about this topic, try to watch this video again before going forward to the next child protection topics. That was everything about child protection basics.
Thanks very much and see you in the next video.